In our fourth and final video on atmosphere, we will talk about how you can use personal atmosphere to enhance your characterization on stage and in film, right after this. Hi, the Inspired Actor here. If you're new to this channel, we are dedicated to helping actors become better artists by offering these quick, roughly 10-minute acting lessons. Just a quick reminder, we have about 100 of these on our channel so far, so check them out. And if you want to see more videos like these, go ahead and subscribe so you'll be notified as soon as they come out. Also, take a moment before you forget and hit that like button, as it really helps me out. And if you know people who might like these videos, please don't hesitate to share them on your social media outlet of choice.
Objective atmosphere influences the character from the outside. The subjective atmosphere comes from within the character himself. MichaelChekhov.
Imagine you are at a bar or a restaurant or maybe a party and you're waiting for someone to arrive. This person can be real, someone that you know perhaps, or they could be a character from literature, a play, or a movie. Finally, they arrive through the front door and every head turns. Suddenly, a word comes to you to describe them in that moment. Just a word. An adjective that completely encapsulates and sums up the person you are waiting for. Arrogance. Machismo. Sly. Knowing. Artistic. Empty-headed. Clumsy. Brave. It could be any word, but this word, this idea, this aura effectively sums up this person, this character in a snapshot. You may not know the details of their lives, but you have a pretty good idea of what they are about, where their personality springs. This is the beginning, the starting point at which we'll begin to explore personal atmosphere for the actor. If you are new to my videos or haven't had the chance to watch my videos on atmosphere yet, don't worry about it too much. I'll put a link to where you can start in the notes. But here's a quick recap. There are two types of atmosphere for the actor. General or objective atmosphere is an intangible, dominant feeling, mood, or quality that is specific to a space or event. An actor can use general atmosphere as a kind of second director, influencing their choices and actions and moving them towards a truthful and inspired performance. It also serves as a unifying force between actor and actor, as well as actors and audience, keeping everyone in the same play or movie and creating a sense of shared experience between the performance and the audience. It really is an invaluable and often ignored component in any work of live performance. And without a conscious application of atmosphere by the performers, designers, and director, the output can be a rudderless mess and fail to achieve the goal of being a piece of active, living, dramatic art. Conversely, personal, subjective, or individual atmosphere, Chekhov used a lot of different terms for the same thing sometimes. Belongs solely to the character. It is usually a consistent part of that character throughout the performance, but doesn't have to be. Now, I can almost hear you say, but inspired! Your character can't be a vague adjective. It has to be detailed. It has to be nuanced. It has to be based on the information given in the script. And you know what? You'd be absolutely correct. The characters you create on stage or on film have to be detailed, nuanced, and based on the given circumstances illustrated by the text. The personal atmosphere tool serves as a starting point for the actor, a broad stroke of color that more and more detail can be added to during rehearsals. You, the actor, can start with a strong personal atmosphere and then trust that the script and rehearsals will provide you with the distinct concrete details you will need to create a truthful characterization. Ultimately, what working with personal atmosphere does is invite the actor to create the aura of the character. In other words, there is a kind of energy that we as people are able to radiate from ourselves, consciously or unconsciously. We as actors can develop our skill to radiate and receive this energy to affect our imagination, our psychology, and our internal and external actions. Now, before you write this off as some silly new agey astrology stuff, not that there's anything wrong with that, let me back up a little. Have you ever been in a room with someone you don't know, but they just give off a certain vibe? Maybe it's just this negative air about them that you find yourself wanting to get away from. Or maybe it's just this amazing energy that they have about themselves and you want to just be their friend and you don't know why. That's personal atmosphere. And we actors can learn to create these atmospheres using our creative imagination to instantly and with very little effort step into different characterizations or moments for our characters. Let's go back to our imagination exercise that we did a few minutes ago. Imagine that the person walking through that door is Hamlet. How would you describe him in as few words as possible? Probing intellect? Angry instability? Erratic depression? There are a bunch of ways you could go with them. Each of these personal atmospheres can profoundly affect how you approach each scene in the play. They serve as a filter through which your character views the world, profoundly influencing how your character receives the information from around them and affecting how they act, think, and feel throughout the play or film. To be clear, you are not bound to use one personal atmosphere throughout the entirety of the script, especially for Hamlet. Perhaps erratic depression works well for the beginning scenes, but you find that that changes to probing intellect or angry instability later on. By the way, these are just wild examples of personal atmospheres for Hamlet. Yours might be, and should be, different according to your own creative individuality. I do suggest that you use adjectives for personal atmospheres, though. Using nouns tends to make us cross over into the use of archetypal characters, which isn't quite the same thing. I also want to caution you that using too many different personal atmospheres for the same character in the same play or movie can fracture your characters, making them inconsistent and erratic. If that's the choice you're making for the character, then okay, but for the sake of consistency, the fewer you use, the better. So now, let's work on a personal atmosphere exercise that hopefully you will find helpful. Find a space that you can move around freely in and move to the outer edge of that space. Imagine a threshold to that space, and that threshold is just before you. Imagine that beyond that threshold is a child's birthday party. Using your creative imagination and your sense memory, you are going to create this place with as much specific creative detail as possible. When you are ready, cross the threshold into that space and walk around the room. Sit. Stand. Play with an object. Look around. Allow the imagery of the space to come to you. What is the general atmosphere of the space? In other words, the feeling of the space. Receive that atmosphere through your ideal artistic center and let it influence how you move through the space, how you see others in the space, the tempos and rhythms through which you move about the space. Once you have a pretty good idea of how that space looks and feels, then step across the threshold to the neutral space outside of child's birthday party. Now, I'm going to ask you to cross through that threshold again, but this time, I invite you to imagine that from within your artistic center, there is a small bubble beginning to build. This bubble is filled with personal atmosphere, and that personal atmosphere is mournful longing. Allow this personal atmosphere to radiate out from and envelop you. Everything you see and do is filtered out and in through your personal atmosphere. When you are ready, cross the threshold into child's birthday party and try to do and see everything that you experienced previously. How does this personal atmosphere affect how you interact with the party? How do you see others in the party? How do you move about? Remember, the atmosphere of the party hasn't changed at all. The only change from before is your filter through which you perceive and interact with the world about you. When you are ready, step through the threshold and allow the personal atmosphere you created to gently dissipate back into the air. Now you are yourself again. Now allow a new personal atmosphere to begin to radiate from your ideal artistic center, but this one is frenetically joyful. Feel free to pause the video here, repeat the exercise with this new personal atmosphere, and when you are ready, come on back. How was that? How did things change for you? Did your tempo change? Your feelings about the party? How did your feelings and behavior change? As you can see, I hope, this is a powerful tool to help you begin your work in characterization. Remember, the general or objective atmosphere does not change with your personal or subjective atmosphere. It is specific to your character only, and each character in the scene will have their own unique personal atmosphere. Next time, I'll be introducing the 3 sister sensations of feeling. So, if you want to be the first to be notified when that video comes out, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. See you later, colleagues.